In today's episode of Hello Road, we're going to start to figure out what's wrong with my purple Ford Probe GT. Hey everybody, Ethan here. Welcome to Hello Road. So if you saw my video a couple weeks ago about this purple Ford Probe, you'll know that I bought the car for $300 at an auction. It's in decent shape. Well, that's not true. It's in pretty rough shape. The car has a pretty big clunk coming from the rear end. The windows don't work. The sunroof doesn't work. Got some smoking coming from under the hood. I'm not a great mechanic, but we'll see if I can dive in and figure out a few of these issues. So come join me. And you'll notice that the car is not locked. That's because the locks do not really work very well. If anybody wants to steal my Ford Probe, it's just completely unlocked. Let's get this thing started and into the garage. Good news is it starts every time. That's nice. Okay, so here we are in the Hello Road garage, and I just noticed something. Somehow, this Ford Probe right here was cheaper than our 24 Hours of Lemons car. No, I'm not gonna turn this Ford Probe into a Lemons racing car. I'm gonna try to fix this thing up, I hope. So as I mentioned, there's more than a few issues with this vehicle. If you were an eagle-eye viewer from the last video, you'll notice that it is overheating. So even though there's a ton of issues with this car, I'm still super excited about this vehicle, and lots of Ford Probe and Mazda MX-6 people have come out of the woodwork and commented on my video and gave me some tips and some suggestions on how to move forward with this thing. So that was really cool. It's really great to know that there's a big group of people out there willing to help me with this car. So I'm probably gonna lean on all of you a little bit to help me move forward with this project. I guess the first thing is, why don't we just run the codes and figure out what that check engine light's all about. All right, first step is to locate the ODB2 port. There it is. And I got one of those Wi-Fi code readers. Let's see if it works. We got nothing, no lights, nothing. Actually start the car. Nothing. So, not off to a good start. My little Wi-Fi code reader thing here is not powering up. I'll pull one out of my race car over here and see if maybe that one works. Okay, let's see if this one works. I know this one works in our race cars, so if it doesn't work in the Probe, then we got some other issues going on. Let's try again. No lights. Okay, so I'm thinking there's a blown fuse. I actually just tried the radio and that's not working, so let me check the fuses. All right, that's the radio fuse, and it's fine. Okay, there's another fuse called room. What does that mean? Well, let's pull it. There you go, that one's blown. All right, so maybe the radio not working is not a fuse problem. So let me pull out the radio fuse and put it in that room fuse location. Ooh. Look at that, it's working. All right, so that's pretty exciting. The OBD2 reader was not working just because of a blown fuse. Now I know you seasoned mechanics out there are probably wondering, why is this guy getting so excited over fixing a fuse? Gotta remember, I'm the head of the Terrible Mechanics of America Club, and I am very excited at little small victories. So I got that working, now let's run the codes. And for you non-mechanics out there, guess a little tip that I just learned. If your OBD2 port is not working and you can't read the codes, it's maybe a blown fuse. So let's see what we've got here. Okay, we're connected. 0 emissions related codes. Okay, that's interesting. Read extra codes. The check engine light's on, but it's not reading any codes. I don't really know what to do now.
2 hours later.
Did a little bit of research online and I've determined that my little Wi-Fi OBD2 reader is not capable of reading whatever code is stored in this car. It can read a lot of generic codes, but it can't read a lot of the vehicle specific codes. So I've gone ahead and ordered a new OBD2 reader, which will arrive here in a few days, and hopefully I'll be able to sort that out. And while I won't be able to move forward on that for a little bit, I can actually maybe start trying to determine why this thing is overheating. Let's see if we can make a little bit of progress on that. All right, I guess I'm gonna start with just topping off the coolant. All right, so I was getting pretty excited thinking, oh, maybe just the coolant is low and that's the reason why this thing was running a little bit hot. But I don't think it's just that. Take a look at this. That right there would appear to be a pretty serious coolant leak. I'm wondering if it's coming out of the water pump. Bummer. I thought it was maybe just low coolant, but definitely got something major going on here. Guess we better get this car up in the air and figure out where the heck all of that coolant is coming from. Now it's really hard to tell where that coolant's coming from, so I'm gonna remove this panel right here and see if I can get a better view. So I'm quickly discovering that everything is packed in here incredibly tightly. It's very difficult to determine where that leak is coming from. I think it's the water pump, maybe. I have no idea if the previous owner drove this thing hot and if the engine is damaged. It seems to run pretty well considering that it was low on coolant. So I think the next step is to throw a new water pump in this thing. I mean, I say it like throw a new water pump. It actually looks like it's gonna be kind of involved, especially for a terrible mechanic like myself. The water pump isn't exactly easy to get to. Gotta take the timing cover off. I even have to take this motor mount out, so it's kind of involved.
Later that same evening.
Okay, a couple things that I've learned so far. In order to work on this car, you probably have to have tiny hands. It's really hard to get down there and access that water pump. I just can't get my hands down there to actually get the wrench in there. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is drain all of the coolant. I'm gonna have to do that anyway, and remove this radiator hose and see if that gives me a little bit better access to those bolts. I just spent all that time putting that coolant in the car. Now I'm gonna drain it all out. To the right is where the fluid should be coming out. To the left is where it should not be coming out. Okay, just took off the upper radiator hose, which should grant me a little bit more access to those bolts. Like everything, it's 10 millimeter. Okay, I got one of them. And I just dropped my wrench in the coolant. Okay, so I need to remove a motor mount in order to get to this water pump. Probably isn't gonna be too big of a deal. I just have to find a way to support the engine as I pull that motor mount out, and then hopefully then I'll have access to this water pump. So right here, here's the motor mount. So I gotta grab those two bolts and pull the whole thing out right here. But of course, first I have to just find a good way to keep the motor from dropping out of the bottom of the car. Okay, got a jack with some wood under there to in case a nice flat surface for the oil pan to just gently rest on. You can tell I'm not a professional mechanic because I'm using a broken torque wrench as a breaker bar. Gotta use what you have, right? I'm gonna pull this mount up. Check it out, motor mount. I did something useful. All right, step 2 of 9,000, getting this water pump out of this car. Okay, with that motor mount on, I have ever so slightly better access to that water pump pulley. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do, try to get the accessory belt off. Actually looks like this belt is loose now, so I can slide it off. Alrighty, one belt down. Now, I have to admit something. This is actually the first belt that I've ever taken off of any vehicle that I've ever owned in my life. I know, isn't that crazy? I've been really into cars for a very long time, but I've just always been kind of a terrible mechanic. Let's hear it for learning. All right, it's about 1 a.m. This car has been fighting me with every step, but I am just about ready to take off this water pump pulley, finally. Is it possible to get this thing out of here? I think it's stuck. Seriously. Holy crap. Oh, my hand is literally stuck. Holy shit, it actually came out. It actually came out. Oh man, this car has been fighting me. So I think this might be a good place to stop. It took me way longer than I thought to even get to the water pump pulley. I haven't even gotten to the water pump yet. And as somebody who's never really done anything like this before, I didn't really know how long it was gonna take me. I kind of had hoped to have gotten the water pump out tonight, but I think it's gonna have to wait for another day. And I hope that all this work of putting a water pump in this thing solves the problem. I don't think it's a head gasket because the coolant, or at least what was left of the coolant, looked totally fine. So yeah, I don't know, we'll have to see. What the f just fell? I just lost a wrench inside this car. I think that might be my cue to go to sleep now.
2 days later.
Okay, got some new parts that have arrived. Over here, I've got new water pump. Right here, I've got a funnel kit. And I got this cool code reader, which should read the vehicle-specific codes that I've got on this Ford Probe. And hopefully it's a lot better than that crappy Wi-Fi code reader that I have. So looking forward to checking that out. Since I figured that I'm gonna be in there doing the water pump, let's actually just go ahead and do the timing belt. So this is the whole kit. It includes the tensioner and idlers, new radiator cap, a couple new belts to replace the belts that I took off. Figure, why don't we just do a new thermostat while we're in there? And I got a temperature sensor and a temperature sender, just in case those parts are bad. Okay, so about this engine, I think I'm stuck, both literally and figuratively. I just can't get my hand to fit into this small engine bay. You've got a transverse mounted V6 in this very, very small space, and I just can't find a way to get my hand in there to get the bolts out. And I've taken off a lot of stuff. I think the only way I'd really be able to do it is to actually pull the whole motor out. That would probably make this project a whole lot easier, but I kind of don't really want to do that. I think what I'm going to do is get a mechanic here and help me finish this project. If I get somebody that has a lot more experience than I do, they can probably get this thing wrapped up in a couple hours, where it's probably going to take me a day and a half. So I don't feel too bad about not finishing this project myself. I feel like I've gotten pretty far considering my limited skills as a mechanic. At least I got it prepped for a guy that's got more abilities than I do. Next video, maybe I'm driving this thing. We'll see. Okay, that's it for today. I made a little bit of progress, not quite as much progress as I had hoped, but hopefully in the next couple days I'll get a mechanic over here that can really help me get this thing up and running again. I'm really excited to actually get this thing out on the road and see what it's really capable of. And in the next couple weeks, I'll do a video on my 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee. And check this out, one more vehicle just arrived to the fleet. What could it be? What could it be? You might remember a couple months back, I did a video on this 2001 Toyota Tacoma four-wheel drive truck. And this was my dad's truck. In that video, he was planning on selling it, and everybody that watched the video was like, no, no, don't sell that vehicle, don't sell that truck, you can't sell that truck. And I think pretty much my dad listened. We're gonna keep this truck in the family. My brother bought this truck, and my dad shipped it all the way out here to Los Angeles so that we could enjoy it for many years to come. So there'll be more videos about this truck coming soon as well. Another vehicle to add to the Hello Road fleet. I think there's probably too many. I think my neighbors are probably starting to get a little bit upset with me. I don't care. What are you gonna do? I have a problem. See you soon.